My coffee cup is empty. I did pre-caffeinate, but my coffee cup is still empty. I know. This is why I try to remember to always lean away from my microphone. You don't ever get like dry mouth while recording? My conversation probably makes absolutely no sense without sound from Fraser. I totally hear Fraser. You shall hear him in a moment. I don't know. What?
It. Oh, you're the worst.
I am not the worst.
Not you. Not you. Technology. Why did it stop working? Why not? That's why. It's not like I changed anything. It's not like I unplugged anything. It's not like I reconfigured anything. It's just that technology is stupid. It's funny with the amount that I do know about technology, and people are like, "Oh, you must really like computers." I'm like, "No. I hate them. I hate them so much." And I think, in fact, today's episode, that's going to be the underlying theme of this whole episode. And I feel bad, like when you've got like a master woodworker, right? And they've got these really great woodworking tools, and I'm sure they think their hammer is great. And they really have this saw that they like.
My husband has shown off his screwdrivers, which sounded worse than was intended.
He likes his guitars, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I hate computers, all of them, every single one of them. I have no fondness for any of them. They're the worst, and yet I am dependent upon them. So
I am so sorry.
Yeah, but I have to be quiet because the Google lady is listening, right?
I have had the Amazon lady decide to join me a few times.
Yeah.
And it turns out that if you tell her to go away, and the same thing happens with Siri, like they'll go away, except Siri will actually like make pouty noises at you. Like, what did I do wrong?
Really?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
See, this is tough, right? Because like your first thing is you want to yell at it.
Yes.
Right? And so you're like, you clearly it's my fault, right? I'm like, hey, schmoogle, mumble, mumble, mumble. And then she's like, I didn't understand that. And I'm like, hey, Google, blah, blah, blah. And then she's going to catch it right now. No. All right. So, yeah. And then you're like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Kill me last in the robot apocalypse. So I'm going to say hi to a bunch of people.
Okay.
Hello to Aaron C., Arnold Post, Burke Kleinkar, Chris Adams, Daniel McCool, Darian K., Gordon Dewis, Graham Walbridge, Guido Bieber, Helge Berkog, John Seffel, Johnny J., Jordan Couch, Quad Libet, Larry Beckham, Lee Stevens, Linda Sadik, Lionel L., Max Sixblade. Wow, everybody's here today. Peter Quinn, our Instro, Selin Adelaide, Sergio Botero, Sylvan Westby, Susie Murph, Tak Tang, Tony Raggett, Will Field, and Zap Van. Hey, everybody. Man, and 3 cats apparently. And
this is because everyone is like off for the holidays.
I guess that's it. Is that everyone is taking a few time, and we were just talking about this before. Like today, this is all the productivity I intend to bring to the empire today. That's it.
I am being far more productive, but I am definitely not wearing real pants. I am definitely wearing flannel pants.
Yeah, you've gone
covered
full
in cartoon characters.
Yeah. No,
yes.
No way. No, I'm gonna record an episode of Astronomy Cast. I'm gonna upload it to the server, and then I think I'm gonna work on window trim. Is the plan. So that's as much space content as I'm gonna create today. Let us begin the show. So if you're wondering what it is that
Okay.
you've stumbled into, this is an episode of Astronomy Cast. We're gonna do the is this the third and final episode on sci-fi?
We could do one more. We haven't done biofiction. So today is computers. What we
Yeah.
haven't talked about is like the aliens coming and
Mm-hmm.
doing bad stuff to us, or us changing our biology.
Right.
Yeah. So I think we can do one more.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
End out the New Year's before the Eastern Orthodox Christmas.
All the Christmases and the Hanukkahs. Apparently Hanukkah's all done.
It is.
Yeah.
And then there's also Newton Miss and Solstice, which is past.
Chinese New Year then will come after that. So, all right.
Yes.
Quadlibet wants to know, how are you able to stop Eddie from munching on that fluffy teddy bear behind you? He can't reach it.
He knows that if he stands up on his hind legs anywhere near that bookcase, he will get his nose thumped. Because he's threatened fish tank water while I had it up on a chair, swapping out.
Right.
My turtle tank is on top of that bookcase. And he thinks turtles are awesome, not that he's going to harm them. He literally spent 4 hours watching my turtle in a bucket last week. So he just wants to smell the turtle.
Yeah.
And I've had to threaten his life because the idea of spilling fish water, it goes straight through the floor into the kitchen. So yeah, we've learned this one once. Only once, when my husband started yelling that there was water hitting the stove through the light fixture.
Yep. Oh,
so
all right,
yeah.
Let us begin this episode of Astronomy Cast, and I'm going to press record.
Okay, I am pressing. I got error opening sound device. Okay, apparently I need to close that Audacity and reopen it.
Okay. Choose the right sound
I had
device.
it open. I had it open. I had it set correctly, and then it noped me hard. Okay. Ready to press record again? Or
Yes,
are you still recording?
I'm ready. I haven't even started.
I'm pressing. It went. It's happy.
Okay.
Thank you, Chad. Wherever you may be in the world, we are grateful for your awesome editing.
Prague. Here we go.
Yeah, is he still in Prague?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's got an apartment, so he's said he's not going anywhere now.
Prague has my favorite evil pastry. Sorry, Chad, you're going to have to cut all of that off. I'm shutting up now.
Okay.
Eat all my favorite pastries.
Here we go. Astronomy Cast, episode 471, Modern Sci-Fi for the Science Lover, Part 3. Welcome to Astronomy Cast, our weekly facts-based journey through the cosmos, where we help you understand not only what we know, but how we know what we know. My name is Fraser Cain. I'm the publisher of Universe Today. With me is Dr. Pamela Gay, the Director of Technology and Citizen Science at the Astronomical Society of the Pacific, and the Director of CosmoQuest. Hey, Pamela, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, Fraser?
Great. This is our final... Is this going to be our final show of the year, or are we going to do one more before the new year? How are you feeling?
I think we can record next Friday. Sure. So it's the final live recording. It's the final edited recording of the year.
It is the penultimate episode of
and
the
there
year.
Will be one more recording, but it will go out in the new year.
Right. But clearly in our minds, we're already on holiday. So I apologize in advance. But we've picked a topic that's going to get me completely riled up and furious. So hopefully that will allow me to bring the energy to this episode while the nog is having its effect on us all. All right, so it's time to talk computers and how we're going to be dealing with them in the future. In our next segment on Modern Sci-Fi, we talk about the future of human-computer interface. Well, how do you like this genre? Where do you put this genre on, from thrilling space opera to cool materials engineering to human computers?
So I think nowadays the idea that there's going to be a computer out there that has some sort of a personality we're forced to interact with, whether it be actually sentient or programmed to be sarcastic. We all know that Siri can be passive aggressive. We know that this is what our future will be. And so I think nowadays, if you want to write realistic near future, far future stories of any kind, you have to include some element of how we're going to be interacting with software and hardware.
And I read a great piece. It was like an opinion piece. It was a couple of years ago, and I apologize in advance. I don't remember, but the idea about this was just this idea of the technological singularity, where we get to this point where computers are making computers, and they're making the computers so quickly that we don't really know what's going on, and beyond that moment is impossible for us to predict.
And we're getting there.
And, well, sure, we're still on our way towards the technological singularity, but that point is this singularity in science fiction as well, because and we're experiencing this every day as I talk to hey Google, what time is it?
It's 12:12.
So right, so we are surrounded by computers now that are listening and interacting with us and destroying us in chess and Go and drawing pictures of celebrities that we've never even imagined before, and making people speak like there's technical demonstrations that allow like Barack Obama, it talks with his voice, but it's not him, set to the video of him. Anyway, it's just terrifying. So, and this is a huge challenge for science fiction writers, that the technological singularity provides this line that it's really hard to predict the future when you've got this. So we're gonna smash ourselves against the singularity today and see where we get.
And what I love is, in the olden days, before people realized, no, really, this is just how it's going to happen, you had folks like Frank Herbert with Dune saying, and there shall be a future where computers are banned and we just like do things with the human brain. And then, of course, you have Battlestar Galactica, which is my favorite, where you inadvertently get Cylons, which may be the future we're headed towards, and therefore you ban all AIs and all internet and things like that, just to prevent the computers from continuing to take over.
Yeah, you're not allowed to plug one computer into another. That's forbidden, because that's how you get AIs.
But what was it, last week, 2 weeks ago, Google announced that one of Google's AIs had written new AIs that did better at image analysis than the parent AI did. So our AIs are getting AIs now.
Right. So let's talk about some sci-fi that we think does a great job of handling this. Do you want to go first? You got one?
I do. Have you read Old Man's War by John Scalzi yet?
I have.
The brain Powell. This is the thing that I have a feeling is probably the closest to happening, where we're starting to get to the point that people can control artificial limbs with their brains. We have cochlear implants. People are working on vision implants. It's only a matter of time before they start implanting the computer. Just stick the whole thing in there.
Right, and of course, Elon Musk talked about this neural lace idea, and then he started another company to look into that. There's some kind of interface between our brains and computers, and and that's still a pretty big technological challenge. But yeah, Old Man's War is great. I think the book that got me really kind of thinking about this is Rainbow's End. Did you read Rainbow's End?
Oh. Yes, but I'm drawing a blank on the book. Hold on.
So I mean, the gist of the book is that the main character is suffering from Alzheimer's, and so he kind of wakes up, like he's just saved by the technology, but he spent quite a while in this Alzheimer's haze, and then they're able to cure the Alzheimer's, and at the same time, he then finds himself in a world that has fully embraced virtual reality and these kinds of technologies. And what's great is it allows us as the reader to come along and be exposed to all of these different kinds of jarring technologies and consider the implications when they just didn't happen. I mean, again, we are still only 10 years after the iPhone. right? Like we're only 10 years
I know.
into this, and they sucked for the first few. Like really, I feel like the modern smartphone is like what, 5 years that we've been using these things really in the level that we do today. So just
Yeah, and it's amazing. It's breaking old people. I had to go get like your yearly make sure your cholesterol isn't going to kill you blood work yesterday. And to sign in for lab work, it's just an iPad screen and you just type information in, no big deal. To me, it was the easiest thing in the world. But apparently, old people just want to like hurl it out a window. And so we've hit the point where humans can't keep up with the technology anymore because it's evolving faster than people can afford to keep up with it. And if you're older and on a fixed income, forget it. It's just not going to happen. You're going to get completely left behind culturally and be unable to interact with the world around you.
so what's another one that you liked?
So have you read Ancillary Justice by Anne Lackey yet?
No.
So this is an award. This is a book that got like all the awards. It got the Hugo, it got the Nebula, it got the Isaac Asimov. I think it's like one of the only books to ever do that, and it may be the only book to ever do that. And one of the things that they do is they actually download computers into humans, take over their bodies. And so instead of building robots, they're just like, we're just gonna like take over a human, no big deal.
Right.
And so then there's of course the struggle of when one of the AIs decides to go rogue and become its own entity separate from the collective of its parent AI.
Wow. Now we've mentioned the Bobiverse on multiple occasions, but once again, they do a great job of setting up essentially a human being that's been turned into a computer, and how, and that all of the others go crazy. So the point is that all of the previous people that this was done to go crazy, and so, but he comes up with a fairly novel way to stay grounded and stay sane, which is to create this virtual environment that then makes him feel like he's a human being again.
He
But
snow crashed it.
yeah, exactly. So he essentially snow crashes his own reality and spends that time in this snow crash version. Now, why don't you explain the snow crash reference in case, because that's relevant too.
So Neil Stevenson, in one of his earlier books, he imagines a near future, and you see the same thing in Ready Player One. You see the same thing in the Caprica series for Battlestar Galactica, just to bring that up again, where we reach the point where you put on a headset, a VR headset, and it taps into your brain so that you have full spatial, interactive, touch sensory, uh, immersive reality. So you don the headset, you're in the video game. You don the headset, you go to school. You don the headset, you're at a dinner party. And as you interact with it, with Snow Crash, there's actually the possibility that you can catch a brain virus, which is kind of amazing to think about. And the story goes into all the different things that happens with Ready Player One, which is a new book that takes a very similar idea. It looks at the, again, near future of our cities are getting so massive that humans basically live atop humans in many parts of the world. Here in North America, we don't really have any mega cities. But you go to Delhi, you go to Lagos, you go to Mexico City, you go to Rio de Janeiro. Many of these million people cities, which like in China, 1 million people is a small city. It's almost impossible to get around because the humanity is at such a density that you can't build infrastructure. And so in this overly populated future in Ready Player One, the idea is you don't have to try and get somewhere. You log in, you don your visor, and you go to school without leaving your home. You go to work without leaving your home. And so you still have humans stacked upon humans, but at least you can escape.
Right. Yeah. Uh, I mean, Ready Player One, and they've got the final official trailer has come out for it,
Mm-hmm.
and and I think Steven Spielberg is directing it, so it's going to be
Oh,
interesting to
wow.
see. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see sort of what they do with it. I think with Ready Player One, it was very heavy-handed about the 80s references, like I think there was a part of it that felt almost a little shameless, to go like,
But it was meant to be.
oh, for
It's a
sure.
guy's love affair with his childhood.
Sure. And so with the one, it looks like the one they're doing is references from everything. So
Okay.
it's like the like, do you remember when you watch Who Framed Roger Rabbit and you saw all of those characters
Yes.
all in there all at the same time, and you just were
Yeah.
like, this is so great. Who, the
How
lawyers
did
must
they
have,
license
yeah, exactly. The
everything?
lawyers must not have been paying attention today, and that's, I think, what the Ready Player One movie is going to have, because you see characters from Overwatch and other, as well as older stuff as well. So I'm kind of looking forward
Awesome.
to that. Less feeling like I'm getting manipulated for my 80s nostalgia, and more, being able to just enjoy all of these different properties coming together in this massive, mayhem. So we'll see
But
how that works out.
but if you are nostalgic for your 80s childhood or teenagerhood or 20 somethinghood when you were discovering video games, read Ready Player One. It's totally an inside joke. The entire book is an
Yes.
inside joke.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, got another one for me?
Have you read Webmage series by Kelly McCullough?
No.
So this one is one of the few fantasy fiction books that I'm bringing in this category. The idea is that um, our quantum mechanics notion that every time a decision is made, the universe splits is real, and every possible outcome happens in one of these splits. So in the suite of splits that the first book is set in, the Greek gods are all real and they're all still actively engaged. And magic has gotten so complicated that they have to use basically smartphones, supercomputers, depending on what level of magic they're doing, to invoke the magic. And what's cool is the main character's laptop converts into basically a little gremlin when it needs to do magic. So it goes from being a happy little magic doing laptop to being like full on gremlin type character. It's cyberpunk cross fantasy. It is fabulous and addictive, and the true gods can whistle in binary. And I really want to know what that would sound like.
So I've got oh man, I've got another recommendation, and I'd never know whether I'm supposed to make this recommendation, which is Ender's Game, which Orson Scott Card. So
Yeah.
just be aware there's a huge controversy about Orson Scott Card, and you're going to want to look into that and make your own decision about whether to read Ender's Game. But Ender's Game's a really good book.
It's
And
an amazing book.
and definitely sort of deals with this idea of like computer simulating war as a way of training future generals, and giving essentially one child the ability to control an enormous fleet of ships, from a central place, and doing the whole thing remotely. And it's this idea, it's really this idea of telepresence, right? That we as human beings are limited in terms of just what we can do physically. But what are the kinds of senses? What are the kinds of manipulators that we can have if you sort of extend things out to computers and robots and machines like that? And is a way. And I think this is something that we're really dealing with. A lot of the drone operators, the people
Yeah.
who are in the United States, and they're flying lethal aircraft halfway across the world, and dealing with the sort of the
It feels like a
psychological.
video game, but real people are dying and they're
Right.
into zero danger.
Yeah, and so there is this psychological price that these people are paying to do this work. and yet it, as you say, really feels like a video game. And there is this, and we have just started down the pathway towards this. I mean, if the drones are that effective, you can keep your soldiers and your pilots safe. Next thing is going to be tanks, and the next thing is going to be robots that are controlled on the battlefield, even though people are calling for bans. And so you can sort of get a sense of what that's going to look like.
And the other side of it with Ender's Game is this child prodigy at warfare, which is a horrific thing to be. He is struggling with the dichotomy of having to hurt people to advance. And there is essentially a compassionate video game on his computer that is trying to push him to cope and push him to think. And it becomes in many ways his truest friend throughout the entire series. And so just this idea that we can write software to help people deal with PTSD and things like that, and the software can essentially gain an insight on how to interact with humans that is more than what a human can do.
Have you seen Her? Have you seen the movie
No,
Her
not
yet?
yet. No, it's on my list to watch over the holidays.
Oh, great. Because I think it's one of the best movies that I would say it's the best movie that I've ever seen that deals with the sort of the human computer interface, sort of the perfect version of the human computer interface where, I mean, not the part where it actually gets plugged into your brain and from that point forward, but just this idea that you are, the way Her works is, and it's a movie, not a book, but the main character gets a new operating system, and everyone uses these little earbud based operating systems that they, like check my email and, what are my appointments today? The kinds of stuff you can kind of do right now. I think when they made that movie 2 years ago, they thought it was very futuristic, but it's very robotic, right? You got a new email from so-and-so. What do you want to do? Delete. New email from so-and-so. What do you want to do? Confirm. But he gets this new version of the operating system and it learns and talks to him and it's very conversational and he falls in love with his operating system. But that way of being able to interact with a computer, to have this entity riding shotgun with you, seeing life and being able to advise you and help you make decisions and be able to do things for you, it felt very realistic and it felt like a way that does make a lot more sense. And after watching that movie, I find myself interacting with the search engines that surround me. I don't know. I don't know if you ever do this. We both wear a similar kind of headset.
Yeah.
But you press the button on the side, and it goes boop boop, and then you're like, and then you say like, "What time is it?" And then and then in your ear, someone tells you what time it is, and it really felt like a great analogy for what the future is. I don't want to ruin the ending, but I found the ending, not the kind of ending I was expecting. So,
well, and then you have like in Mr. Robot, where the one I want to say police officer, I may have the wrong job for her, is constantly talking to Alexa as her best friend, and you can actually hold rather profound conversations with Alexa.
I'm not gonna lie. I ditched Mr. Robot halfway through this current season.
I only watched the first season.
Okay.
I started to watch the second. I was just like, bleh.
Yeah.
No, but the first season was so good. And have you seen Chappie?
Yes.
That's another one where you have the operating system essentially become sentient, and you have the compassionate struggles of an AI.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So just a couple more on the TV show front. One that I think is just really good is Person of Interest. Have you ever watched that at all?
Yes. Yeah, that is.
The first season of it is very much like, mystery of the week. Like, and the gist of it is that there's an AI researcher that's developed this computer for the NSA or some 3-letter agency, and it sort of does whatever they want, but also he sort of added a compassionate part of it that's trying to help other people. All of this other, the people who would have slipped through the cracks, this computer is designed to sort of send him social insurance numbers that he can then you call them social security numbers, you know. Right, so send you these numbers, and then you can find out whether the person's in trouble. And so it's very episodic, is the way it sort of begins. But over time, they sort of make it stretch out more over, that there's this underlying conflict that's happening between the AI that he creates and other AIs, and it's a very realistic take on how these AIs, it felt to me anyway, might kind of move forward and interact with each other and try to be protected and try to be controlled and be seen as weapons by the agencies that think they're controlling them. And they did a really good job of sort of transitioning from what was just like a gimmick procedural to what the future may hold for this.
And it's such a complex dance that so many different people are trying to figure out. What I love is the book All the Birds in the Sky, which is another fairly brand new one that was nominated for a bunch of awards. In this one, you have someone trains their AI through conversation with a very lonely teenage girl. And it turns out that when you give the AI the ability to Google and search and research and try and come up with things, there's this transition point where it goes from responding with looked up answers to asking questions to suddenly one day, actually, the code that it has written for itself as it trains makes it essentially sentient.
Wow.
And so just the idea that someone can learn humanity through conversation with someone who's hurting and alone is such a powerful idea that I'm surprised we haven't seen more of it in terms of like how alien interactions transpire and things like that. But that's only one small part of the story. So go read it so you can get at all the parts of the story.
While we're talking on television, and I guess this is going to come up twice. Last week we talked about Westworld, the new Westworld, as part of sort of 3D printing and manufacturing. But another big part of it is just it as a television show trying to have these, the robots that don't know that they're robots.
Right. And so, yes. And then you have In 6 Wakes by Mur Lafferty, which has also come up multiple times and is a book. There's the idea that when you download yourself into a new body, which I know is something you would like to do, you have the potential that someone can essentially implant things into your brain, and that none of us are anything more or less than complex software, which you can add new algorithms to. So imagine being able to actually go in and review the code of a mind and hack out this thing and add in this other attribute. So it's a very interesting concept of once you're able to download your brain, you can change your brain.
Right. And then are you still you?
No.
Well, that's a question. Now I want to just sort of make a note. I don't want to download my body into a robot. I am just willing to do that beyond the alternative, which is to turn into worm food. So
yes, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
So let's talk, I guess, I don't know, should we talk about all of this has been sort of fairly happy and fairly just, like, oh, this is super interesting. But how do we prevent the robot
Matrix?
Apocalypse? Well, the robot apocalypse, right? The Matrix is being one example, but just this, that how do we know that the computers aren't going to have a better job to do with us,
So the robot apocalypse actually started this week.
Oh, did
I forget exactly where it was, but there were folks, some company that got sick and tired of all the homeless people around their building, and instead of sending a human being out to
I saw
They
this.
sent out a robot.
To go nag them to leave.
Yeah. And so we now have robots going out because the humans themselves lacked the ability to go out because they knew they were being mean.
Yeah.
So they sent a robot to be mean. And so we are apparently teaching robots to be mean to homeless people.
So that's it. That's the robot apocalypse right there. Our robots are going to be mean for us. So if you get called in to your boss's office, but the robot is sitting there,
You're so screwed.
Then you know you're getting fired, right? Because your boss just doesn't have the heart to tell you that you're fired.
And I think Clippy was perhaps the first step in the robot apocalypse.
It sounds like you're getting fired. Would you like some help with a new resume? All right, I guess getting me going on the robot apocalypse and is a whole other thing, and I refuse to take the bait and go down that rabbit hole. We don't have time for that rabbit hole, so instead I think we're gonna wrap this up. We showed you a bunch of science fiction televisions and books, and hopefully you will make a bunch of recommendations to us as well. I think we're gonna do one more episode next week. We're gonna talk about.
We're going to talk about the bio side of science fiction. But before we go, let's just remind everyone, we are part of a tax-deductible entity. If you're listening to this and it's still 2017, when your itemized deductions still matter a lot, if you're here in the United States, then you can donate and lower your tax.
Are you paying too much taxes? Let us help you with that.
We are happy to take your donations. Go to astronomycast.com/donate and find out how you can help make this more and more a part of Fraser and I's day job.
Right on. All right, we'll see you next week, Pamela.
See you later, Fraser. Okay, and now we save. This is 476?
471.
I totally mislabeled last week's. No wonder I confused poor Chad.
Yeah. I think you built a time machine, maybe? Okay. And export, but not upload.
Yep.
Don't upload.
I'm going to turn
one of these times I'm totally going to fill up my hard drive. Tang is mentioning Altered Carbon.
Yes.
I haven't read it, but now it's on my list. Chad loves it though. And so he did the edit last week and he was like, "Oh my god, they're going to do a TV show about Altered Carbon. I love that." He reads the book he says he reads it every year or so.
Okay, I've read it a couple of times, but I didn't.
A couple of times? Wow, okay.
I'd owned it long enough that I completely forgot it.
Yeah.
And I'm back to the point where I've actually pretty much completely forgotten it again.
Oh, great.
So it's not very memorable, apparently, if you're me.
It's really helpful, I think, so that we never run out of books.
It's true, but some books I remember really well. So those are the ones.
I forgot to mention it's in three-body problem as well. There's a whole big thing on virtual reality, and essentially the aliens prepare us through virtual reality, which is really neat.
Okay.
All right, let's hear some of your recommendations. Any of your questions?
Yeah, we didn't bring up Deus Ex Machina, probably because I haven't seen it yet.
Wow, Ex Machina is the other one.
I know.
Right. So if you do her and you do Ex Machina, then do you need me to nag you on a regular basis? Should I just tweet you every hour or so and say, "Did you watch them yet?"
They're now on my list of things to watch while I'm working on cleaning my calendar and stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay.
And I have a ton of knitting I have to catch up on. So there's lots of movies while knitting that's going to happen.
Well, and you've got 1 week until the next season of Black Mirror is out. So.
It's true.
Yeah, 29th, which is. But there's no Deus Ex Machina. It's just Ex Machina.
Oh, I lied.
Yeah.
So other
Dues.
things,
It's my Canadian
folks.
accent. Duex ex machina. Yeah, Neuromancer. I was going to talk about Neuromancer, but it's a little older.
Yeah, we're trying to highlight new authors.
Yeah, but I would say Neuromancer was the first thing that ever put it into my brain, pun intended. So when I read Neuromancer, and it was this idea of the man, what did he call it? The cyberverse. Oh, what? Someone's going to tell me what did he call the alternate reality in Neuromancer?
This is another book read so long ago, I no longer have memories. It makes life easier
But it was the
sometimes.
metaverse in Snow Crash, right? And that was
Yes.
awesome. And have you been sort of keeping track on what they're doing with the Magic Leap? You see, they did a
No.
big. They finally updated their website, and so you got
Oh,
a sense of what
yeah.
they're.
The release that came out yesterday, where they
Yeah,
showed the pictures of the hardware, but they still don't really have videos of the
yeah,
experience.
yeah. It makes you look like Pitch Black. Makes you look like Riddick from Pitch Black. You've got these sort of, round glasses, look like welding glasses. But
It's true.
and somehow it's about shooting laser beams into your eyes and building up the imagery on the retinas or something.
This just really doesn't seem like a good idea.
Well, it's gotten $2 billion, and everybody who's played with it says it's magic. But it's
Okay.
one thing to make a technology work. It's another thing to, have them.
Develop software that
Yeah,
makes it worth
software that
using.
makes it worth using, and a development environment that people are able to use, and licensing deals that get technology into it, and battery packs that don't explode, and there's like it's one.
Google Glass taught us all many
Yeah,
lessons.
yeah. So it's one thing to have a technological demo, and it's another thing to have a product that does it. But if it does work as people say, it sounds pretty
Yeah.
neat. Because the problem with like if you wear like a VR headset is you're looking into these two flat planes. And so even though it is 3D, it still is kind of hard on your brain, and it still doesn't look
Yeah.
quite right. While apparently what Magic Leap is doing by it works better. So of course it's the first version of it isn't going to work well yet. All right, anyone got any more recommendations? Millennium Man, Bicentennial Man, that was it. Yeah.
Okay, I've heard of that one. I haven't read that one
Well, that was
either.
originally a Isaac Asimov book, wasn't it? And then they made a movie about it.
I don't know.
Okay, and people are telling me that it was called Cyberspace, and that's what Gibson called it in Burning Chrome, which is awesome. So
Dang.
yeah, man, there are so many stories. I really wish I had time to read all of these books and play all the video games and listen to all the podcasts and.
There's so much good content out nowadays. There is no excuse to not constantly enrich your brain.
Yeah, it's
You may not be enriching it in a useful direction.
well, you remember like back in when we were kids and we just had garbage on television, right? Like we just like we had like I don't know, Three's Company and stuff. It was awful, right?
Yes.
And we had no choice, right? We were lucky that on midnight, I don't know about you, but on midnight on Fridays, I could watch Doctor Who for like an hour and a half,
Yeah,
right?
and we had like 6 channels,
Yeah.
and you had to physically drive to the rental place, and it might have a couple hundred movies. And yeah,
Jordan Couch, yes, your mic is turned on, and so will AI input with things to alter their perception? Yes. So if you're like wearing augmented reality, and you are walking around in your augmented reality, and you're dealing with an AI that is trying to make your life better or prepare you for the inevitable robot apocalypse, then absolutely. In fact, apparently this magic leap can do some really weird stuff, like just turn people into avatars in front of you.
That's cool.
Right?
So you finally start to get the holograms that we have
Yeah.
in the Star Wars movies. I haven't seen the latest, no spoilers, no spoilers. And in Star Trek Discovery, and it is deeply confusing that they don't have it in later versions of Star Trek. I hate the fact that Star Trek Discovery is a prequel with advanced technology.
Uh, yeah. You should watch The Orville.
I I keep hearing
It's fine.
it land on people's best list and worst list.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fine. It's good. Actually, you know what? It's good. I'm gonna upgrade it from fine to good.
Okay.
Especially as it gets further and further into the run, and they sort of find their stride. So they start out trying to make it be like a parody of a science fiction show. So it starts out trying to be like Galaxy Quest, but without Galaxy Quest's super awesomeness. And then they move forward and find their own thing. They're trying to capture the next generation is what they're doing, right?
Okay. It
But
was on NPR's list of worst shows as like the worst show of 2017.
yeah, I don't think that's fair when you think of some other shows that came out in 2017. That's mean. That's super mean. Because it's clearly like a bunch of people who came together to create us. Like, I don't know the history, but what I feel is that it's like a bunch of people came together to pitch another Star Trek show, and then Star Trek Discovery was the one that made it. And so they had to wait, and they were like, forget it. We're just going to make a clone. And it's fine. It's fine. It's good. It's good. In fact, someone in the chat just said it's great. But I wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't get to great. I would stay at good.
No, it doesn't pass the Orville it doesn't pass the Firefly test according to anyone I've heard. I've heard that it's fine and
Yeah.
it's good.
Yeah. It's like, man, you know that show that you watched, and while you were watching it, you were pretty entertained, but then it was over, and you didn't really recommend it to a bunch of your friends unless they asked you what your opinion was? It's like that.
Gotham. Yeah.
No. I hear that's terrible.
But it's really pretty.
But I would like better than Flash, right? Better than Arrow, but worse than something really great.
Worse than Supergirl.
I haven't seen Supergirl except for
It's
one
the
episode.
best of them.
Really?
Yeah.
But then not like when you watch Battlestar Galactica, the reboot, and you're like, this is just blowing my mind. Like the first episode was one of the greatest pieces of science fiction ever told on television. Although, shame about the ending. Again, I can never.
We don't discuss the last 30 minutes.
I can never forgive.
No, it's true. But we don't discuss the last 30 minutes.
No, it didn't happen. Or Lost.
Yeah.
I'll never forgive Lost.
Yeah.
What else are you guys watching? What else are you guys doing? Clearly, we need to do a almost. William Van de Beek is saying Almost Human is pretty good. I watched.
Is that the one with the ghost, the vampire, and the werewolf?
No, that's Being Human.
Okay. Which is also good, but not great.
Almost Human was it was a guy with a robot. He's a cop with a robot cop sidekick. And
okay.
Yeah, but nah, it was not good. Marcus A is recommending Islands of the Net by Bruce Sterling.
I don't know that one either.
Peter Q is recommending Red Dwarf this year, which
there's a new Red Dwarf?
Yes, there's new season.
How did I not know there was a new Red Dwarf?
I should catch up on that, actually, because, yeah. I mean, aren't we really just killing time until the 29th and we get to watch the new season of Black Mirror?
Hey, there's a new Doctor Who special on Monday. And we're supposed to meet the new Doctor.
Oh,
It's Doctor Who Day.
I don't watch Doctor Who anymore.
I'm gonna give it a new try.
Yeah.
I could never stop seeing Matt Smith as the love child of Odo and Bill Nye. And that just made it really hard to watch.
He's even more that in The Crown as
Really?
Prince Philip. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh God.
He's a very striking man.
Who looks like the love child of Odo and Bill Nye?
Right. That's awesome. Man, what else am I excited? Oh, and then apparently Bright comes out today on Netflix, which I haven't.
I don't know that.
Yeah, it's Shadowrun is what it is, without the cyberpunk, I guess, and it's a movie. With
Have you watched Stranger Things?
yes, of course.
Okay, just
Yeah,
making sure. Just
yeah.
making sure.
Okay, here's the question that's really going to define your holidays. Have you watched Rick and Morty yet?
I know I need to, or you'll kill me.
I really will. I
I broke him.
You
I
did.
broke him
You
completely.
did. You did. I feel like this whole conversation just needs to stop, and we need to wait for you to watch Rick and Morty.
I know I need to because everyone like I watched one or two episodes and then got sidetracked by other things and I'm a horrible person. I'm aware of
Well,
this.
while you're building Lego, think to yourself, is this really the best use of my time?
I was building Legos while watching Star Wars movies. I was
That's pretty awesome.
multitasking.
Yeah, and being on live streaming it on Twitch.
Yes.
Why don't you let people know what you're doing on Twitch, by the way?
So for those of you who don't know, I've started my own channel over on Twitch, and with the new year, I think I'm actually going to start seriously investing some of my time into it. Where Tuesday nights I'm doing narration of science fiction books, discussing the science in them.
Oh, cool.
Saturdays I'm doing various art. I've started. Let me see if I have one on my desk. Let me grab one of these.
There's the flannel pants.
And I just proved to everyone I'm wearing cartoon pants. Yes, I told everyone I was wearing flannel pants with cartoons.
Yep.
I'm going to wear them to Walgreens, so clearly I don't care. So I've been, I learned how to do fluid painting from our friend Surly Amy Roth. And so I'm going to be on Saturday doing a bunch of painting and discussing what different gas chemicals and temperature profiles create the different colors in gas giants. And I'm going to try and do convective cells in stars.
Wow.
And so this is Saturday is going to be my art day. We've created an Etsy shop that I'm selling these on. I've already sold all the paintings I did.
Oh, that's awesome.
So this one actually belongs to someone and will be getting mailed on Saturday. Then lots of other random stuff occurs. If you are looking for a way to escape Christmas Eve, I'm going to be reading the original of a bunch of old fairy tales. So things like the original Grimm's Brothers version of Snow White and the Hans Christian Andersen version of The Little Mermaid. And these are not happy stories.
Yeah, gather around the fire, children, and Auntie Pamela is going to terrify you.
And so yes, I'm doing this on Twitch because it actually has much better interaction tools than YouTube. So come join. It is free and there's cool ways to interact during the feed. So it's twitch.tv/Starstrider.
Yeah, a Quadlibit is wondering why you don't make do this kind of thing on YouTube and do this stuff on Twitch. So I can one of the reasons for me as well is that YouTube, the YouTube algorithm punishes you if you try to experiment and do stuff that's weird and kind of more off the cuff and different, right? And so,
Yeah.
and that's one of the reasons why is you sort of have to, once you've defined a genre on YouTube, you kind of have to stick to it or create a separate channel to do that over there, which I guess you could do as well, or broadcast both at the same time or whatever. But
And I am going to start backing my stuff up to YouTube, because one thing I didn't realize is Twitch deletes your
yes,
broadcasts after 16 days. Thank you to Noel for pointing that one out. Um, so yeah, I'm doing the experiment on Twitch, and so far I'm really enjoying it. And I'll be backing things up to YouTube.
yeah, that makes sense. All right. Well, have a great Christmas, Pamela,
You too.
and we will see all of you in a week from now.
Happy whatever you choose to celebrate. And if you choose to go dark like me, there will be grim fairy tales on Christmas Eve.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you later.
Bye bye.